Hello. For this first video, we're going to look at setting up a Premiere project, getting your project set up to a given specification, creating folders. What else do I have written down here? The difference between absolute and relative links, file naming, some just kind of broad picture stuff. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, so this is in the Finder, and I have a folder for myself here when I'm using to organize the class. And I have the first project, and I have some stuff I'm using. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make a folder that's going to house my Premiere edit. And I'm going to call this from A to B demos. All right. Now, let's open Premiere. So you all know this, I hope. Your applications live in an application folder. Like a hotkey to get there is Command-Shift-A. And once you've opened an application for the first time, after that point, you can do the little hotkey Command spacebar, and that will bring up a search, and then you start. So for example, if I wanted to open up Photoshop, I could just start typing. I hit Command spacebar Photoshop, and then you launch it. So from this point forward, I'm just going to use this. It's called Spotlight, the Spotlight search to open stuff, and it's all about saving yourself a little time. Okay, so now we have this window. We're going to start fresh. And we're going to call this, I'm going to call this from A to B demo version 00. I also like to put my initials at the end of anything I'm creating, so that if I'm working in a team, my other team members will know who to reach out to figure out what's going on with something. And so I think that's a good convention. So name of the project, name of the specific task, version, and your initials. That's a good way to go. And then we want to point it somewhere. So I'm going to hit Browse. And I just made a folder. Narrative sequences from A to B demos. I'm going to choose that. And Premiere, like some other programs you might have played with, creates folders for caching and previews and all kinds of stuff. And so, working out of a central directory is like a critical thing to do. So I'm just going to hit OK. Okay, so your little window might look a little different. Let's go to Assembly, and then go Window, Workspace, Reset to save layout. And so this should look something like this. The first thing we want to do is set up our sequence. So we're going to make a new item, a new sequence. And we are going to use a preset RE 1080p 24. So this is going to be 1920 by 1080 square pixels, 24 frames per second. And this is what we're going to use for everything in this class, unless I can, and if not, I'll tell you otherwise. And let's give it a name. Let's just call it A00. All right. So this is our project window. So this is where we see our sequence, any assets that we're going to use. This is our timeline, and then this is the edit. And there's a lot to talk about here, but we're just getting the ball rolling. So we have a sequence that is set up to the proper resolution and frame rate. And I might just want to save. And actually, more often than not, it is better to save as. All right, so I'm just going to call this demo 01. And the nice thing about saving as is you can always go back in time, or if something really gets screwed up, you can go to an earlier version. And sometimes earlier versions are coming out better than later versions. So it's just a way to kind of keep track of what's happened and undo mistakes and all that sort of thing. So I tend to save as more than save. Every time I make like a major positive step forward, I will save as. And if I'm just doing little things, I'll save. But I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so we need to collect assets to build our edit, and we're going to collect them from some stock sites, but there's one other thing I want to do before we do that. So if we go to our project folder, made to be demo, see here there's a little autosave, and as we build stuff, Premiere is going to start popping stuff into this folder. So there's our 01. We need a folder called footage, or as some people call it, assets. It doesn't really matter, but what matters is the folder needs to be in a child directory. It needs to be within the same folder as the project. That way, when we add things to this folder, it will be relative to the project. And let me see if I can explain what I mean by that. So let me just put a little placeholder file in here into this footage. Then here, it's just a file. All right. So I'm going to use this little tool here. Don't even really worry about what I'm doing. Just opening up terminal. If I drag this in here, this long string of craziness, let me grab this. Next edit. All right, so this looks like a lot of madness, but it's actually not. It's not too bad. What this is the entire path on your computer to get to that file. All right. So we have, and it corresponds to all the little folders you got to go through to get where you're going. So let me have the path over here. Okay, and then over here, I'm going to show you where this file is. So we have Macintosh HD, users, Peter Alfano, attachment Dropbox. Then in attachment Dropbox, we have some Dropbox folder. Then we see, what does it say next? Peter Alfano, teaching, Mecca, spring, narrative sequences, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so this is called, this whole list of every folder going all the way back to the root to your Macintosh. See, here we go. You can see it all at once, right? All the way back here, that is called an absolute link. It shows you where it is relative to the whole computer. And that's fine sometimes. But if I put my file here, so there's the absolute link. If I put my footage in a directory, in a folder, that is a child of the root directory, what Premiere or really any other program will record its location as is this. Footage, screenshot, and the name of the file. Right? And that is much shorter than this. But what's cool is if your assets or your footage are relative, that means I can move this folder around, I can copy it, I can give it to someone, and when they open it up, the link will still work because it's just relative to its parent. And we could talk about this in class if this is confusing, but this is a really important concept that deals with like making websites or working in 3D or just tons of stuff. The difference between an absolute link and a relative link. And another place that it becomes a really big deal is, let's say you're going back and forth between a Mac and a PC. When you go to a PC, it's not even called users Peter Alfano. It might be called C Peter Alfano. Like things will break every time you open the file, and you're going to have to relink things if you're not using relative. All right, so that's enough for this.